Hello there, it's Josh here from Racing the Profit. Hopefully you can hear me, see me in this video for a kind of daily snippet and something of interest to read, or in this case watch, on Wednesday's post. I'm going to take a quick look at Brian Ellison and his jumps record, especially in the last couple of years, and whether it indicates a resurgence or not. And I'll just kind of fire out an angle that you may wish to note and keep track of. I'm not going to include him in the main jumps profile report, of which I've now kind of got 15 trainers, and we'll finish out. I'll kind of explain why, but what I'm about to show you is worth noting. I thought I would start with one of the articles written by Matt over at GG's, his kind of trainer rankings 1920, which if you have an interest in jumps racing and trainer performance, is worth a flick through. There's a link below this video, you can do that. Matt's looked at various different variables. It's an interesting read. If you've got any interest in jumps racing, I would give it a read if you haven't done. And you may wish to note down a few trainers of interest to follow. One of those from this kind of early piece of work, and some other things I kind of looked through, both within GG's query tool and within Horse Race Base, which I'm about to jump over to, kind of fired out Ellison, certainly in the last year or two, as being a trainer to kind of take note of, possibly. The question, as I jump over to Horse Race Base and take a look at Ellison, I'll do this from scratch quickly, just for there'll be some of you watching this who have a Horse Race Base account or use other system building software, which may kind of help, I suppose. For the jumps profile report, I've kind of been looking at since kind of 2015. If I just leave the date off for a minute, month, the angles very much focus on October through to April, which is obviously the main winter season. So I've kind of extracted and excluded any summer form, for kind of obvious reasons, to focus on those trainers who do kind of peak their string or have winter horses and do well at this time of year, obviously, which is logical sense behind that, given it's the kind of main season, or main part of the kind of annual jump season, as it is now. So yeah, you can put date, race code, I can pick trainer, proceed, and obviously you can tick the different things you may wish to kind of form a foundation for any kind of system or angle. So it's very much just ticking these boxes and going along as I go. I kind of use control find. Control find is a different button on my Mac, but in any case, I kind of type, because otherwise I can just kind of flick through. So you can type the name of the trainer you're looking for with Control F or whatever on your laptop computer, or just scroll through, obviously. If you wish to kind of build a system, or do some, not necessarily build a system, but do some research in this way. That's kind of all of his runners since. Let's take a look. So yeah, they kind of go back 12 years now. Horse Race Base data, I think Chris changed that. And it may have always been the case for systems. It's now in place for kind of big race trends races as well, kind of just go back the last 12 years, which certainly obviously is plenty for trainer stats. But I suppose what I wanted to highlight here is the first time, and obviously 2020 to date, I'm talking in early October, is a shortened season, which may be the reason for it. But it's his first kind of back-to-back kind of 20% plus win strike rate years with his jumpers. I suppose you can look at these kind of stats and realize how cyclical things are. Although he was kind of very consistent around the kind of 13 to 14%. Maybe that's his normal year. 22% is a kind of big, decent year. He has fewer and fewer national hunt runners, it seems. Obviously 2019 he had 102, which was his fewest since 2010. So that may suggest the kind of fewer animals, or focusing, he may be focusing more on the flat or weather, or wanting quality over quantity, or maybe not his choice at all. Many things can decide trainer form, and what you can do with the horses. One of the main things is the ability and the quality of the horses that you get, which is obviously linked to the trainers you attract and how deep their pockets are. But Yes, so whether or not there's been some changes with ownership or different horses coming into the fold, but you can see there the kind of 2019, 2020 as a kind of standout and as some kind of resurgence. The question, I suppose, is this after the Lord Mayor's show, trying to predict 2019 on the back of 2018, 2017, all those years before? Would have been tricky unless you were probably close to the yard, or had an idea of the influx, which some people may well have been. But you can kind of break down or do whatever with all that data. I'm just going to add the year. Well, for all my kind of research, I like to go back to 5 full calendar years and then the year to date. If you're in horse race base, when saving a system, it's important to save either 2021, or when you go to save a system, just remove the date and the year, because if you don't put 2021 or remove the year completely, when it gets to the 1st of January, the qualifiers will stop being fired out, which I've learned before, having wondered why horses I expect to appear didn't. So you can see that record there, and I've kind of been through this before, and you can do different things. Obviously break down, and if you have access to this kit or Gigi's query tool, of which you could do some of the stuff I'm doing with here, you can break down by the horse's age. You can look at various different things, all sorts. I like focusing on, generally, with any trainers, kind of unexposed horses, those with fewer runs in handicaps, or age-wise younger horses some of the time, so that you're not relying on older exposed horses kind of filling out the stats. That also gives some logic for the future in terms of hoping that, especially with bigger yards, because they have some loyal supporters and get, if their buying habits are the same, they get quality horses each year and each summer to develop over seasons. Hopefully that kind of their stats will keep ticking over if you're focusing on younger unexposed. And when I send out the kind of trainer profiles report, you'll see some of the angles and maybe see what I mean there. With this one, there's various different things you can do. You could argue that it's probably best to just look at 2019 and 20. I'm just going to break down, that was meant to be by jockey, not by trainer. And Ellison's always had a few kind of go-to jockeys. If you sort it by wins, high to low, you can see the 3 main men. I would say that's probably obvious in terms of who he likes to ride for him, winners, and the number of rides they've had. But you can see the different stats there. We're obviously going back somewhere, and you can focus on whatever you want on that particular pile. I'm going to focus on these 3, and if I click the stats, you can kind of see that kind of link to resurgence of Ellison, or certainly with those in the last 2 years, and you can see how those stats have kind of jumped forward. Some real, not a horror show as such, 2017, 2018, 15, 16, not so bad, but a dip there in terms of place percentage, win and place percentage. So some indication maybe that the quality of horses changed. Different owners, maybe all cyclical, and they became very, very poorly handicapped, and that's obviously a reason, especially with some of my jumps angles, a lot of them focus on handicaps, and would be a reason why past glories won't sustain themselves if there's a change in the quality of horses, or they don't refresh with new stock, or owners leave, and you're just stuck with a lot of badly handicapped horses. And it can take a whole season to get some of these animals down to a mark that they can then compete from again. So that's something always to look out for, and another reason why it's no bad thing focusing on younger horses maybe. So if I just break down by the year, and just focus on those last couple of years, I tick around to 10 minutes. I will try and keep this under 15, which will be short for me. And you can see the stats there. They're probably good enough either as a starting point, or you'll look at those. Trying to have faith that they'll continue is obviously going to be interesting. Part of what I like to do also is, just with any trainer angle, is to look at the horses that have won, and particularly just sort by wins. just to see if there are any kind of handful of horses who are responsible for all of the kind of positive stats. That's more important, even more important when you're looking at profit loss and you don't necessarily have an odds cap. So you can kind of tick these three different, well, there's three that have won 3 times each, and if you apply not rule, so that just kind of then will look at all the stats without those three. You can get a feel for, actually take out the 3 horses that have won 3 times and the stats still look solid, as you can see there. So that's kind of something you can do for the budding system builders out there, and it's always good to kind of check that. Obviously you're hoping they're going to repeat that multiple win trick with other horses that are now in the yard, but it's something just to keep an eye on. What else did I end up having on age? Obviously, like I said, I mean, we're dealing with really small numbers now for kind of trainer stats, I suppose, but that's always kind of the way with trainer angles, and will always be the case. But you can dig and do whatever you want, really. Age is something I kind of like to look at. Obviously, you can look at older horses. The strike rate's not too bad, but you can see he has generally, well, you can look at those that are 7 and older. That's not to say don't back them, but systematically anyway, to SP and to profit loss to Betfair SP, only so, and they're kind of older horses getting on a bit maybe. And obviously their form will be more well known. So they're the kind of things you can look at in terms of age. And if I just, well, let me, before I do that, sorry, because this is useful for, note down different things you want from this angle. You can break it down by race type, as always, and you can see the different results there. Handicap hurdlers. Obviously, like I said, when you're dealing with handicaps, trying to judge whether it's the same horses reappearing the next season when the handicapper has them is always something, and as a weigh-in for kind of any stats listed, I suppose, of mine, with kind of older, more exposed horses trying to work out if they're handicapped to win, although that's arguably the case with kind of any horse in a handicap, obviously, if you're not just backing something systematically. Handicap novice chase is done fairly well, but I was kind of looking at those that are a bit younger, in the sense that this will hopefully fire out, if Ellison has restocked his yard or has horses coming through bought from last year or whatever, store horses that have been given time and get a bit older, that may kind of appear now age kind of 3 to 6 over jumps, National Hunt, and you can see the stats there, kind of 16 from 39, 20 places since 2019-20. In that sense, there has been some kind of resurgence. Plus 83 points to Betfair SP. You can break down by the odds, and you can look there. He has had a couple at kind of 20s, plus 39 profit. I like to look down at those that are shorter odds just to make sure, the kind of profit loss, especially with kind of no odds, with no odds cap, isn't swayed by some monsters, which obviously can be the case, and that's again just useful things to know. But yeah, 50% strike rate there, with those that are sent off 6 to 1 or shorter. So they may well appear to know when to put the money down, but like I said, there's a couple that have gone in at big prices. I can break back down by those jockeys just to kind of have a look and see who's done what. As you can see, they're quite fairly similar. They do seem to be the 3 kind of go-to guys, or they have been. And of course, given Brian Hughes mainly rides for McKay now, he's kind of stable jockey and he's chasing the championship again. Maybe even more interesting when he's booked on a Ellison horse. Obviously Danny Cook rides plenty for Sue Smith. He does ride for one of the big owners that Ellison has, as do the other 2, but so on and so forth. They all can, well, Danny Cook obviously especially likes to be aggressive, so can Henry Brook. So yeah, you've got those stats there, breaking down by, you can look at track, but when you're talking about data that's kind of quite small like that, in terms of numbers, looking at course records isn't necessarily that important, but you can see there and pause and note down where the multiple winners are in that period. So yeah, that's something to note. Let me just finish with race type. I'm ticking around to 14.5. Yes, there's National Hunt flat. So quite a few of those won't have had any runs in their career. Handicap hurdlers, novice handicap chases, etc. So targeting lots of different race types is always interesting. This kind of angle, looking at those age, is going to very much depend on the quality of the horses that Ellison gets. So it is something to keep an eye on. Maybe we can all go away and do some research about his yard to see if he's had any new recruits. I'm sure there's probably a list of horses in training on his website or something. There might be some people who've done interviews with him, who knows? But that's the kind of thing you can look at to try and predict, to see whether this angle for the last couple of years is going to repeat. But it is the kind of one that I would keep on side. It's pretty straightforward. Brian Ellison, National Hunt Runners, October through to April, those three jockeys on board. There's not going to be loads and loads of qualifiers. They should be pretty easy to find. And yeah, you can do that as you wish. If I click the now button, oh look, a magic. There's one tomorrow. On Wednesday, probably going to be a short price, and he's already won 3 times within this angle, hasn't he? I think 145 Sedgefield snookered. But yes, I'm going on for longer than I probably wanted to with this short video, but that was the idea of this. Because of it's only kind of 2 years data, and it's looking at a lot of the data is outside of just handicaps. I'm not going to include him in the jumps profiles necessarily. I may just flag qualifiers every now and then in section 4 or some part of the blog, or some of you that have horse race base can save it and flag in the comments or something if you so wish. But with that said, I think that angle, and certainly Brian Ellison's National Hunt Runners in general, is the point, are worth keeping an eye on. Whether or not systematically, we shall see, but certainly as a way in. The market can guide, as you've seen, but it also cannot, and the booking of those 3 jockeys may well be significant. So with that said, hopefully something of interest and wild entertainment on the racing front to flick through and watch on Tuesday evening, Wednesday morning, or whenever you get round to this video. But with that said, I will shut up. And as always, thanks for watching. Best of luck with any bets on Wednesday and beyond. And until the next time, this is Josh saying bye for now.